Haytham, or as I'll be referring to him as for the rest of this video, Connor Kenway, was born in 1756, the illegitimate son of the Templar Haytham Kenway and his Native American mother, Zio. Connor was raised in the village that oversaw the protection of the Grand Temple, the Isu site which housed the Capitoline Triad for much of their research into methods to protect against the sun's solar flares. This temple is what brought Connor's father, Haytham, to the area in the first place, and was also the reason for Charles Lee, William Johnson, and other colonial Templars to the area in 1760, when Connor would run across them in the forest nearby his village.
You look familiar. Where have I seen you before? That wasn't very nice.
Let me go!
Listen to that. He knows English.
Small for a savage.
More spirited too. We have questions for your elders. Only tell us where your village is, boy, and you can go.
Best do as he asks, child.
I could snap your neck, you know. A little more pressure, and pop. The sad little flame of your life extinguished. You are a nothing, a speck of dust. You and all your ilk, living in the dirt like animals, oblivious to the true ways of the world. The wiser among you recognize the shape of the future. They throw themselves at our feet and beg mercy. But not you, it seems. No. You cling desperately to your ways, too ignorant to know your folly. But I am not unkind. And so I spare you, that you may carry word to your people. Let them know the sooner we are given what we seek, the sooner you can return to your pathetic, empty lives. A fair trade, is it not?
What is your name?
Charles Lee. Why do you ask?
So I can find you.
I look forward to it.
The young boy would be attacked by the Templars and would be knocked out with a barrel of a gun, only to wake to find the forest shrouded in smoke. Returning home, Connor would find his village set alight, presumably at the hands of the men he had met in the forest, and despite the child's best efforts, his mother would be killed in the blaze, leaving Connor to be raised by other members of his village and to become a quiet hunter, spending most of his youth leaping around the trees of the frontier, with only his thoughts and at times his best friend. Despite remaining in his village, Connor would be inquisitive as to why the people of the village wouldn't travel past the valley, a questioning that was finally answered when the young man turned 13. The village's clan mother would take Connor into a darkened building, leaving him with the Isu crystal ball that housed messages from the Isu scientist Juno, who explained to Connor the importance of protecting access to the Grand Temple from the Templars, instructing the young man to seek out the assassin insignia. After discussing with the clan mother, she would lead him to the homestead in the east and permitted Connor to travel to seek the path that the spirit of Juno laid for him. Arriving at the rundown manor of Achilles Davenport after many days of travel, Connor was immediately turned down by the former mentor of the Colonial Brotherhood.
Please, all I ask is a moment of your time.
I apologize if I've been unclear or otherwise confused you with my words. It was never my intention to mislead, so let me try to clarify. Get the hell off my land.
However, after persistently staying on the homestead's grounds and thwarting an attack against the homestead by bandits, Achilles would allow Connor entry into the manor and would explain the intricacies of the Assassin-Templar conflict, both historically and within the colonies. Over the next year, Achilles would begin training the teenage Connor, before finally bringing him on an errands run to Boston, as to expand the boy's eyes to the state of his nation.
There's a store close to here. You're to buy the items on this list. Tell them where the carriage is, and they'll see that it's loaded. Understood?
Yes.
Good. You're also going to need a new name. Your skin is fair enough that you might pass for one with Spanish or Italian blood. Better to be thought a Spaniard than a native. And both are better still than I.
That is not true.
what's true and what is aren't always the same.
What would you call me then?
Connor. Yes, that will be your name. All right then, off you go.
However, whilst the two were in Boston, they found the people of the city riotous, protesting the British soldiers that patrolled the city. As the riots heightened, Connor and Achilles noticed Connor's father, Haytham, in the masses, and the boy would follow him in an effort to uncover any potential threat. Connor would tail Haytham's associate to a rooftop, preventing him from firing a rifle shot into the crowd. However, from the rooftop across the way, he would see Charles Lee fire around into the sky, startling the soldiers and igniting the Boston Massacre. Connor would initially be blamed by the city's patrol, however with the help of assassin ally Sam Adams, he'd be able to clear his name and escape the city to return to the homestead, where Achilles would congratulate the young man for his poise in Boston by granting him his hidden blades. Over the next few months, many developments would take place on the homestead, including lumberers Godfrey and Terry taking refuge on the grounds, a pair of farmer spouses Warren and Prudence doing the same, and the battleship the Aquila being repaired and further captained by Connor, who by this point had grown into a skilled and talented young assassin, which would be signified by Achilles' induction of the boy officially into the Brotherhood.
Put them on. Once upon a time, we had a ceremony on such occasions. But I don't think either of us are really the type for that. You've your tools and training, your targets and goals. And now you have your title. Welcome to the Brotherhood, Connor.
After many more months of training, Connor would be greeted by his childhood best friend, who came pleading for the assassin's aid in preventing William Johnson from laying claim to the land that Connor's village sat on. Connor, who had set out on his journey entirely for the reason of protecting his village from Templar control, pledged to fight against Johnson and the rest of the Templars, striking a hatchet into the pillar of the manor to officially declare war. Connor's initial plan to prevent Johnson from buying the native land was to cut the Templars' funds off at their roots, and would reunite with Sam Adams in Boston, where with the help of disgruntled American citizens, he would dump massive supplies of tea into the harbour of the city, which would also act as the catalyst for the American Revolutionary War. However, this financial attack on Johnson wouldn't be enough, and so Connor would be forced to hunt and kill the Templar before any sale or negotiation could be made. As the Revolutionary War began to heat up, Sam Adams and Paul Revere would request Connor's aid in spreading the word of revolution, but the assassin wasn't interested until it was revealed that John Pitcairn was a key figure in the British military. At the Battle of Bunker Hill, Connor would cross the battlefield by foot, flanking the British and assassinating Pitcairn, who would reveal to Connor a conspiracy to murder George Washington. In an effort to prevent this assassination, Connor would seek out Thomas Hickey. However, both would get caught up in a counterfeiting racket, and Connor would be falsely charged of the crime alongside the Templar. Hickey would be swiftly cleared of charges thanks to his Templar involvement, and after Connor successfully escaped his cell in the night, he would be confronted by the Templar alongside Charles Lee, who would capture him and pin the conspiracy of the murder of Washington onto him.
Not who you was expecting, am I right?
What have we here? I thought we'd finished off your kind.
You would like that, wouldn't you? To rid the world of all who do not share your views.
Guilty as charged. Your meddling in the revolution has caused us no small measure of grief. It cannot continue. Our work is too important. But what would you know beyond all the lies Achilles feeds you and the tales you tell yourself?
I know that the people wish to be free, and that men like Washington fight to make it so.
Please, the man is weak. He stumbles and stammers through each engagement, making it all up as he goes along. His pedigree is pathetic, his military record even more so. I could go on and on, but we'd be here for days, so manifold are his faults, so deficient are his merits. He must be dealt with. You as well. I will abide no more flies in the ointment.
Here's how it's gonna work. First we bind you and bring you to your cell. Then tomorrow, you go before the court, accused of plotting to kill good old Georgie. Maybe we could pin the murder of the warden on you too. You did kill him after all. And who wouldn't take the word of Charlie? Over here. Once that's all squared away, well then.
All those years ago, the child in the forest was you.
I said I would find you.
And so you have. But not quite as you had expected, am I right? You know, all of this might have been avoided had you only done what I asked. But what's done is done.
This would lead Connor to the gallows, where he was set to be hanged for the conspiracy. However, thanks to Achilles and the steadily growing wider brotherhood, the noose was able to be cut before Connor was dropped, and the assassin would be able to prevent Hickey from rushing Washington to kill him. Saving Washington's life, Connor would be given a continental pardon, and would in return travel to Philadelphia to witness the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Around this time, Connor would take passage on the Aquila in efforts to find the treasure of infamous pirate William Kidd, and after obtaining numerous map pieces, he would sail to Oak Island, where he would uncover the treasure, which was an Isu artifact that would deflect explosive fire thanks to an electromagnetic field generated by the ring. In late 1777, Connor would develop partnerships with two new allies, one more surprising than the other. First, he met the New Orleans-based assassin Aveline de Grand Prix, who he would aid to assassinate a Templar loyalist in New York. Following this, Connor, against Achilles' wishes, would meet with George Washington, who would ask him to investigate the actions of Continental traitor Benjamin Church. In his search, Connor would be confronted and in turn finally meet face to face his father Haytham, and despite initial hostilities, the two decided to make a truce and work together to locate Benjamin Church.
Tell me something. You could have killed me when we first met. What stayed your hand?
Curiosity. Any other questions?
What is it the Templars truly seek?
Order. Purpose. Direction. No more than that. It's your lot that means to confound with this nonsense talk of freedom. Time was. The assassins professed a far more sensible goal. That of peace.
Freedom is peace.
Oh no. It's an invitation to chaos. Only look at this little revolution your friends have started. I have stood before the Continental Congress and listened to them stamp and shout. All in the name of liberty. But it is just noise.
And this is why you favor Lee?
He understands the needs of this would-be nation far better than the jobberknolls who profess to represent it.
It seems your tongue has tasted sour grapes. The people have made their choice, and it was Washington.
People chose nothing. It was done by a group of privileged cowards seeking only to enrich themselves. They convened in private and made a decision that would benefit them. Oh, they might have dressed it up with pretty words. That does not make it true. The only difference, Connor, the only difference between myself and those you aid is that I do not feign affection.
A search that eventually took them back to New York, where they would find but miss the opportunity to kill him. Thanks to the Aquila though, they would relocate the traitor and assassinate him. Sometime later, this father and son duo would reunite in New York, where they would uncover British plans to march on the city. Taking this news to Washington, Haytham would confront the leader of the free world, and would reveal to Connor that the burning of his village, and in turn the murder of his mother, was an attack ordered by Washington himself during the 7-Year War. He would go on to find a new piece of correspondence that another attack on his village of the same kind had just been ordered by the Continental commander. Connor, understandably, was furious at this revelation and immediately pledged to cut ties with both Washington and his father, but prioritized returning to protect his village over confronting either man. However, although he prevented the attack, he had not reached the village before Charles Lee, who had rallied the native people to fight back against the Continental Army, an engagement of the war that Connor was ardently against. In efforts to prevent his village from getting involved, he would confront his childhood best friend and would be forced to kill him in self-defense. Following this, Connor would ramp up his hunt for Charles Lee, which would lead him to Monmouth, wherein Lee had hastily called his own troops to retreat from battle, causing chaos and massive losses on the Continental side. Connor would meet Marquis de Lafayette and would aid in recovering the town and allowing the Continental Army to retreat. This failure of Lee was seen by both Lafayette and Connor as an active betrayal to the Continental Army, but Washington refused to take action, forcing Connor's hand in focusing his full attention on the murder of the Templar. Before making his final push on the Templars, Connor would begrudgingly aid Washington one more time, helping the man uncover the traitorous behaviour of Benedict Arnold. In 1891, Connor would return to the homestead to find Achilles heavily sick. The two spoke, with Connor informing his mentor of the success of the nation in the war. Achilles, though, unconcerned with the war, made effort to ensure Connor pursued and killed both Haytham and Lee, despite Connor's inclinations towards unity between the two orders. Before he could argue, though, the assassin would be visited again by Lafayette, who would ask for Connor's aid in the Continental Army's attack on Chesapeake Bay, and sailing the Aquila alongside the French Navy, Connor would help win the battle for the Americans. Returning to the homestead once more, Connor would finally find his mentor having peacefully passed away, and he, with the help of the vast new residents of the homestead, would bury Achilles alongside his late wife and son. Spurred on by his mentor's dying wish, Connor would aid the Americans' attack on Fort George, where he would be confronted by his father, who had sent Charles Lee away to protect him from Connor, now in his physical prime at the age of 25. The two would engage in a duel, with Connor eventually coming out on top, killing his father and topping the most significant Templar leader in centuries. Connor would find Haytham's journal, which told of his childhood, his interactions with Dio, and his regret at the separation between himself and his son. Although having regret himself, Connor stood resolute in his dedication to the Assassin Order and set out to finally eliminate the last major Templar threat in the colonies.
My father is dead. Charles Lee now leads the Templar Order in his place. I see now why ours is an eternal war. For each piece taken from the board, another is placed upon it. Back and forth we go, across the world, across the ages. Some days mine feels an impossible task, but I cannot afford to be consumed with doubt. The people need me, now more than ever. I must stop the Templars. I will kill Charles Lee.
He would confront Charles Lee at Haytham's funeral, and after a grand chase to Boston and eventually over the sea to Monmouth, Connor and Lee would have a final silent confrontation, both battered from their respective wars with each other. The two would share a drink, with Lee conceding his loss and Connor striking a single blow to the heart. In 1783, Connor would return to his village to find it abandoned, his people having travelled west and a colonist from New York buying the land. He would go on to discover that the new United States Congress was utilising the sale of native land as a way to fund the nation in order to prevent the need for heavy taxation. Disappointed, Connor would find the crystal ball again and would recommune with Juno, believing himself to have failed in his task to protect his people. Juno disagreed, reminding Connor that his people's duty was only to protect the Grand Temple, and she gave Connor one final task: to hide the key to the Grand Temple where no one would find it. She claimed that the assassin had fulfilled his role, a revelation that left Connor confused, disheartened, and disappointed.
Long have we waited for you to return. You have done as we asked. You have succeeded.
No! I have failed! My people are gone! Chased out by those who I thought would protect them!
It is a trade, a sacrifice, and not in vain. For you have found it.
This?
Now you must hide it, where none shall think to look, and then in time, what once was, shall be again.
I do not understand.
Nor need you. Only do as we ask. Then, you may do as you wish.
But what of my people?
You have saved this place, as was your people's purpose, and that matters most.
It is not enough.
It will never be enough. You strive for that which does not exist. Still, you have made a difference, and you will do so again. Remember, you must hide the amulet where none might find it.
However, he acquiesced her request, burying the key in the grave of Connor Davenport, Achilles' son, as to allow Desmond Miles to uncover it 3 centuries later. As he returned to the manor, he removed the hatchet, declaring his war to be over. He would travel to New York for Evacuation Day, before retiring to the homestead to continue to grow the wealth of the area, and rebuild the Assassin Order with the aid of Aveline in the south. A few years after the Revolutionary War, Washington sought out Connor, explaining that he'd been having nightmares due to the Apple of Eden he retrieved from Yorktown. Connor took the piece of Eden from the president, but as he did, both men fell into a vision of an alternate timeline, one in which George Washington had taken up the mantle of king in the colonies, leading an oppressive and tyrannical regime. Connor got bear powers and could also turn invisible and fly like an eagle, and Washington built a pyramid in New York for some reason. Yeah, this was a strange DLC, but none of it actually happened anyway. After the two returned to a state of reality, Connor confiscated the apple, taking it out on the Aquila and dropping it into the Pacific. Later, Connor would marry a native woman, having 3 children, one of which had the ability to directly commune with animals, specifically eagles, a rare trait caused by the percentage of Isu DNA within her. As he rebuilt the Brotherhood, Connor and the Assassins would take control of colonial America. He helped establish and maintain the safety of trade routes throughout the American frontier and the Pacific Ocean, and he built the Davenport homestead into a thriving sanctuary for those who had been oppressed by both British and colonial powers. In all, Connor embodied the core tenets of the Assassin's Creed, perhaps more literally and more naively than most. However, his optimistic view of the world and of people aided in the liberation of the colonies and its people. Although by his 30s, Connor had somewhat come to terms with the overly bureaucratic and at times self-serving nature of the powerful, he had not allowed this more nuanced view of the world to weaken his own pursuits. His lasting legacy stands as one of the power of genuinity, a message that if your motives are truly pure and aim for the highest good, you can truly make change in spite of those who harbour ulterior motives.
My father left those for me. Mother, Father, I am sorry. I have failed you both. I made a promise to protect our people. I thought if I could stop the Templars, if I could keep the revolution free from their influence, that those I supported would do what was right. They did, I suppose, do what was right. What was right for them. As for you, Father, I thought I might unite us. That we would forget the past and forge a better future. In time, I believed you could be made to see the world as I did, to understand. But it was just a dream. This too I should have known. Were we not meant to live in peace then? Is that it? Are we born to argue? To fight? So many voices, each demanding something else. It has been hard at times, but never harder than today. To see all I worked for, perverted, discarded, forgotten. You would say I have described the whole of history, Father. Are you smiling then? Hoping I might speak the words you long to hear? To validate you? To say that all along you were right? I will not. Even now, faced as I am with the truth of your cold words, I refuse, because I believe things can still change. I may never succeed, the assassins may struggle another 1,000 years in vain, but we will not stop. Compromise. That is what everyone has insisted upon. And so I have learned it, but differently than most, I think. I realize now that it will take time, that the road ahead is long and shrouded in darkness. It is a road that will not always take me where I wish to go, and I doubt I will live to see its end. But I will travel down it nonetheless. For at my side walks hope. In the face of all that insists I turn back, I carry on. This is my compromise.